Hello there. You already knew that autumn and winter wouldn't be easy, but now this. Because the expected inflation has been revised up even further to a whopping 18.6%. The heating cost and electricity bill will be tripled or quadrupled. And the social consequences are bad. At least half of all households will be affected by energy related poverty, perhaps as many as two-thirds. Some small and medium sized companies have to deal with electricity price increases by a factor of 7, and then it's all over. The crisis will cut down companies like a scythe cuts a grain of grass. You may say now, wait a minute, there's something odd about all these doomsday numbers, all this gloom. But they're actually true, only we have to make a short journey for that. So let's say you get on a train in Cologne, change quickly in Brussels, rush through the tunnel under the English Channel, and then you're already strolling towards Big Ben in the middle of London and wondering what the hour has struck. Actually, everything looks the same as always, a hustle and bustle, people flock to work and into the shops. Nevertheless, the crisis that we fear here in Germany has long since reached the British. What is prophesied for them over the winter makes our own disaster scenarios here look like a mild ailment by comparison. The exploding cost of living is hitting the British much harder than other Europeans. But why? Sure, the government in London is a total failure, which is why it really has to be put in quotation marks. The head of government, Boris Johnson, had been forced to clear the way for a successor, and crisis aside, can hardly be seen in his official residence in Downing Street, but instead he is permanently on vacation with kith and kin on the Mediterranean. The two applicants who would now like to sit in his chair are busy with the party's internal election campaign. Liz Truss, the favorite, has positioned herself as a worthy successor to the windy curly head, as a leader who uncompromisingly tinkers with her own advancement. Facts don't matter, populism is okay, standpoints depend on the direction of the wind. Scruples about unnecessary ballast are unnecessary ballast for them, and that goes down well in the Boris party. And Truss is practically the certain winner of the race. British publications therefore sometimes look enviously across the channel and are full of praise. The well-known economist has just confirmed good prospects for the Germans and their government, while we here in the country, well, we are tearing our hair out about trouble in the coalition, also about the energy crisis, bureaucratic mismanagement, the digitization debacle, and so on and so forth. There's a reason for the friendly verdict of the colleagues on the Thames. Even a stuttering and squeaking German government machine must appear as a masterpiece of precision when your own only consists of a heap of wedged parts. The deplorable state of affairs in Downing Street does not give hope for crisis management. But in fact, the particularly miserable situation on the island is not solely due to the current team at the top. The British are caught up in their history, and twice over. First, they did everything right, and then very, very wrong. Actually, one has to call it exemplary how consistently Great Britain has switched to the relatively environmentally friendly natural gas as the main energy source. For heating at home, it plays a much greater role than in Germany, and 40% of electricity is also generated from gas. However, the massive increase in the price of gas on the world market is now having a correspondingly severe impact. The lesson to be learned is always the same. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket. And that's what the Brits would say. We would say don't bet everything on one horse. We Germans prefer not to put everything on one card. It doesn't matter whether it's gas, hydrogen, or wind power. If it's just one type, then it's crap. And if there's only one dominant supplier, then anyway. The troubleshooter in Moscow, well, you all heard of him. And so unfortunately the example of British behavior backfired, but the example is gone now anyway. All that green shit should kindly be thrown out of the energy legislation almost a decade ago, ordered the then Prime Minister David Cameron, who found the environmental fuss too expensive and somehow anti-industrial. Yeah, that's the same person who also had the idea with the Brexit referendum. The brilliant one. The hundreds of pounds that every single household throws out into the countryside because of this are now being revised upwards on an ongoing basis thanks to skyrocketing prices, and I would go to thousands now. So short-sightedness takes revenge, but so do visions and delusion. The fact that the British are now worse off than the rest of Europe obviously has a lot to do with Brexit. Turning your back on the club of your best buddies in trade and business is bad for business. Expensive border checks are driving up prices. A shortage of workers is causing wages to rise. And when the business situation is poor, the state coffers are not sufficient to cushion the social consequences of rising prices. The morale of the story is once again very simple. Together we are stronger. For example, with a common European internal market. Of course, the British should have known that. But unfortunately, it's too late now. And there's no way back in the next decades, I'll say. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.